My anaconda don't.
For Victims and Villains, my name is Josh, and this is Ashley, and today we are talking about 2025's Anaconda. This spiritual sequel, as Jack Black's character would say, tells the story of a group of childhood friends who reunite to remake the cult classic Anaconda.
First impressions, full comedy. Black and Red are amazing together. Really cool to see them work together. I had not seen them work on another film together. Lots of slapstick comedy, lots of nostalgia. However, if you have never seen the original Anaconda, that is okay. Mostly, if you have, it'll heighten your experience with this film. If you have not, you are not missing anything. It's entirely its own story by itself, but I do enjoy that it pays homage to some of the classic monster movies where you're not seeing the full monster in the movie. So definitely be on the lookout for that. If you are afraid of snakes, you might want to sit this one out.
My first impression of this movie is I had a lot of fun with this movie. This movie is as ridiculous as the premise makes it sound, and even crazier, I think, in some aspects than you would expect. There's a lot of surprising heart in this movie. It definitely feels a little bit too busy at times, but I also felt that way about Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which was Tom Gorman's previous film. But before this one, I loved the cast here. The jokes, comedy didn't always land for me, but overall, this was a really fun time.
Characters in this are definitely unique. You have Rudd and Newton's characters are kind of the love arc of not only the movie they're filming, but the movie itself. You've got Jack Black, who's just kind of all over the place. Like you mentioned, there are all these cute little heartwarming moments, but it is definitely an all over the place movie. You've got Zahn's character, who's just there, like, I understand he's like still kind of part of the main cast. He didn't feel super part of the main cast, mostly as like a supporting role, and you have some phenomenal supporting characters who get just enough character arc to them that it makes everything flow. It is a very fast-paced movie, sitting at around an hour and a half, I believe. Yeah.
I agree and also don't agree at the same time. I think this movie, it definitely has that fast-pacedness to it that I really appreciate it. I love comedies that sit right around this. I think this is the perfect timing for comedy, but also at the same time, I love how meta this movie gets. Like, this movie feels like it's a commentary on the relentless pursuit of IP that we're currently seeing in the mainstream movie making industry process now. I love that this is a DIY type of process as both a lover of film and as a film festival program. I really enjoyed a lot of this way this movie unfolds, and kind of, again, the heart in this movie was really surprising for me. There are some excellent payoffs in this movie if you are a huge fan of the original. I know there was like one moment that like I audibly cheered, and I can't remember the last time that I've audibly cheered at a movie. This movie was just a lot of fun.
Just on my aspect, I always look at the costuming side of things. You're going to find lots of references to older films just in their costuming and wardrobe. There's a lot of callbacks towards Jurassic Park in their costuming. There's some costuming that reflects the original movie, as well as still making it feel very modern and very 2025, like what's currently going on.
For you talk about the fashion kind of being a throwback. I think the soundtrack here is also throwback. It's very heavy on the 80s and 90s, kind of glam metal from the 80s, but they also have these beautiful kind of almost pop hits as well. And they also use those to really enhance the comedy here that I thought worked really well. With that said, I think it's going to do it for us. So let's jump into our Rorschach ratings.
For me, it's going to be a 2.5. It's funny. It's kind of brainless. I didn't really learn anything new watching the film. It also didn't feel as scary as the original. I understand it's a remake and a reboot, but it fell short for me. I do love watching Paul Rudd and Jack Black interact together. I think their on-screen chemistry is really unique, not only in their characters, but if you watch some of the press as well. I think they did a really, really good job of embodying the characters that they were portraying.
I think for me, I'm going to go a little bit higher. This landed for me a little bit easier. So 3.5 out of 5. I think this movie is a good movie that if you're a cinephile like myself, you're really going to appreciate this movie. Maybe you think it's dog shit. But I really appreciated a lot of the filmmaking aspects of it and challenges that were presented throughout the course of this movie. I do think this movie is, for it being 90 minutes, it can be busy at times. Now, those subplots eventually do converge and they do have nice payoffs. But again, it also feels like if you took those out of it, it would be the bulk. Most of this would be the same exact film. You talked about Zahn and Jack Black and Paul Rudd all are incredible in this movie, and there are some really awesome payoffs as well. Anaconda 2025 is now playing in theaters everywhere from Sony. So until go check it out. We'll have links in the show notes below where you guys can check your local listings. But let's talk about mental health, shall we? If you guys are new to our content here at Victims and Villains, we make content like what you're watching right now that talk about mental health through pop culture and ultimately what art teaches us about mental health and its effects in the hopes to deconstruct the stigma surrounding mental health.
I think one of the easiest mental health aspects to relate to is definitely self-worth. How worthy you feel, how unworthy you feel. We see this specifically in Jack Black's character arc. He starts the film feeling very unworthy, and it kind of travels throughout the entire journey of the movie. And it's not until the very climax where he starts to really sort of understand his worth as a filmmaker and director for the reboot.
I think it's one of those things that I think a lot of us, whether you're watching this right now or you have it playing in the background, can relate to. There's a lot of these, especially, when you're kids and you have young ideas and like goals and aspirations, and then you kind of graduate from high school, and a lot of those kind of can sometimes feel really hard to obtain. And so because you have been, in most cases, if you've been chasing after something for so long and ultimately, whether you get it or not, or, life steps in, sometimes it's a really hard transition. And sometimes there are the side of dreams that I feel like not a lot of people talk about are the aspects that they have on your mental health if they don't actually come to pass or come to pass in the way that you imagine.
When you talk about dreams and dreams not necessarily coming to pass the way you want to, we do get that in Paul Rudd's character development. In the movie, he's an actor. And without giving too much away, you do see kind of the mental health havoc that just pursuing your dream and then not exactly getting the big Hollywood dream that you wanted come to fruition. And you can kind of see throughout the course of the film how that affects him, as well as making him a little bit feeling unworthy as well. I think he's one of those other characters that we see a little bit of the struggle of, well, what makes him worthy enough to be doing this in the first place.
I think to your point about Rudd, probably one of my favorite shots in this movie that articulates that is it's a scene where he's at his sink in the kitchen doing dishes, and the camera looks out the window defeated, and the camera just kind of pans up. I think that is a shot that it's one of the film's quieter moments, but it's a feeling that I think a lot of people can relate to, myself included, of, is this always what I wanted? That's one of those things that it's a question I feel like I've asked myself a lot this year, and it's been one of the only healing journeys that I've had. And the answer is, for a while, we chase after the things we think we want, and then once we actually get the things that we have, or we have them in our possession, they're not quite the dreams we thought they would be. And that process in and of itself also has a way of making you question your own self-worth and your own value as an individual. And I just want to speak to that and just say that a lot of the things that we think we want, really don't need, but also at the same time that you're not the bullshit that your depression tells you you are.
You mentioned bringing up the process of, once you get what you've always wanted in life, it's not necessarily what you always thought it would be. I like to think of it as almost a ever evolving dream, kind of like pretty much all of the characters in the movie. They were united on one front in making this movie happen, making it like an indie film, but at the same time, their dreams are ever evolving. Their dreams are moving crossways. Even at the ending, you have a whole new direction of dreams with Jack Black's character that you don't exactly see coming or happening. And I think, even if you've obtained the dream and it's not what you want, it's okay that it's not what you want, because inevitably we all start out having some dreams and they have to shift along the way. But as long as you're making the most, even with the guys in Anaconda, as long as you're doing the most, making the most, figure out a way, they found a way.
I think as life comes and dreams shift or evolve or even drop out and new ones come in, I think one of the things that you have to understand is that you have value as a person. And so one of my favorite moments of film this year is the opening to the movie Drop, where you have a therapist that is quite literally having her patient do a practice where essentially what she's doing is having her patient look herself in a mirror and affirming rather her value as an individual. And I think that dreams can shift and dreams can change, and they can be something completely different, but understanding at the end of the day that you have value and that you have worth, and reaffirming that within yourself. And that's also something that I think we kind of have this moment between Rudd and a lot of the characters in the course of this movie, where you have them and they're kind of having to reaffirm their own value and their own worth within themselves. If you or someone you know is struggling with suicide, addiction, self-harm, or depression, please click the links in our show notes below to check out our mental health resource library. Anaconda 2025 is now playing in theaters everywhere. Click the links in the show notes below to check out more information on who we are as a nonprofit and as an entertainment site. We have links to all of our social media, mental health resource library, that follow button, more movie reviews like this, and podcasts on our podcast network. So until next time, remember to keep it classy, and welcome to the jungle. I'm going to go ahead and give Marty Supreme a 4.5 out of 5.
I think I'm with you on that 4.5.
This movie does a lot of things right. I think this movie has a incredible pace to it. Score is incredible. Costuming design is phenomenal. Performances across the board are very well done. There are just some of the story elements I felt like didn't necessarily belong or held the movie back from its full potential. But again, Chalamet in this is a tour de force.
It is definitely a go to the restroom beforehand. Don't leave the movie. If you leave any second of the movie, you will not understand what's going on. That is how fast the pace is and how it moves along.